MDK is a third-person shooter developed by Shiny Entertainment and originally released in 1997 for PC and ported a bit later that year for the Sony Playstation by Neversoft. The meaning of the MDK acronym was for a long time uncertain, with Shiny poking fun at players, including misleading hints in both the manual and installation files, and never making an official statement regarding its real meaning when the game was released. Among the most probable meanings were Mission Deliver Kindness, the codename for the events that take place during the game, Max, Dr. Hawkins and Kurt, the names of the game's protagonists, and Murder, Death, Kill, which appeared in the 1993 action movie Demolition Man. This last one ended up being the meaning most vastly adopted, and later it was confirmed by Shiny that MDK was the codename for the project during its development, and that the game was indeed called Murder, Death, Kill. But in order to avoid raising too much attention to the rating authorities, they chose to stick with its initials instead.
MDK was Shiny's first PC game, using software rendering technology. This meant that despite its complex 3D environments and enemies, the game does not need a dedicated graphics card to draw the level geometry, making use of the processor for that task. Coming right after Earthworm Jim and its sequel, MDK finds Shiny Entertainment at a creative peak. One of the game's masterminds, Nick Beauty, has revealed that wanting to develop the game for PC was a deliberate move on their part. Up until that point, Shiny used to work with consoles, releasing their games on both Sega and Nintendo hardware. The switch for the PC platform would allow Shiny to use more powerful tools, and simultaneously would also release them from some thematic and stylistic constraints imposed by the rating boards at that time. On the other hand, the new Sony Playstation and its target audience seemed to fit MDK like a glove, and so a port was greenlit, to be available shortly after the original PC game release. This turned out to be a key decision for MDK's aesthetic and themes. While still retaining the absurdity and comedy of the previous games, MDK drips with style and visual flair, from the Giger-esque battlesuit design to the dark and dreary apocalyptic vistas contained on each zone, most of them displaying futuristic and cyberpunk vibes that have aged surprisingly well. The visual aspect is perfectly complemented with an excellent soundtrack, composed by Tommy Tallarico. The soundtrack is mostly epic and ominous, and does a good job of reflecting the scope of the levels, while occasionally making you feel like you're stuck in a gigantic, alien haunted house. As a result, the game features its share of lighter moments, but never crossing the line of self-parody too far.
Stylistically, MDK is brilliant, managing to keep the series tone, while not being afraid to let the chaos and absurdity take over from time to time, resulting in a liberating and cathartic experience for the player. Like many contemporary games from this time, if you want to know details about MDK's premise, world and lore, you'll find most of them inside the game manual. Here, you'll find the story documented as a journal of sorts, with several entries from a scientist named Dr. Fluke Hawkins. Dr. Hawkins was setting up a spaceship for a scientific expedition when he inadvertently triggered the launch sequence. Our unlikely hero and main protagonist, a janitor named Kurt Hectic, was also in the spaceship at that time, and both were sent flying into space. While in space, our crew is joined by Max, a genetically engineered dog with 2 legs and 4 arms, and with enhanced intelligence, created by the Doctor to help with the tasks on board of the spaceship. Together, they detect an electric anomaly, possibly originated by alien life in the fringe areas of the galaxy. They start observing it and realize that this anomaly is jumping from planet to planet, getting closer to Earth with each jump.
It doesn't take long for our cast to realize that this energy is caused by the Stream Riders, an hostile alien force that seeks to harvest the resources from our planet. Our cast is forced to watch them as they invade Earth, boarding gigantic mining cities that consume all matter underneath, selectively picking the most populated cities for their attacks. Earth's fate is at stake, and with no counter-offensive possible, it all boils down to our crew to save the planet from complete annihilation. Together with Max, Dr. Hawkins creates an armored coil suit and an arsenal of equipment and gadgets to be used in combat. It's up to Kurt to use the battlesuit and the gadgets available to bring a stop to the alien invasion. This is where the action picks up in-game, with a brief introduction to the mining city and where it is headed, and with Kurt entering the cities via freefall from space through the atmosphere. During this playable section, you will have to avoid the radar focus and projectiles that are launched by the structure underneath, while trying to pick up items and special ammunition that is also free-falling with you. After this introductory section, the proper level begins and you'll be able to control Kurt and see what he's capable of. The first section of the first city acts as a tutorial of sorts, allowing you to get familiarized with the handling and with the types of obstacles you will face further ahead.
Duncan! Wait! Please, you cannot turn your back on me.
Excuse me.
My heart is racing.
You are so totally whipped. I'm grand. Let's ride a bicycle bill for two. Then we can go to the potpourri store and then go buy sheets. Would you rather be at home shooting a bazooka or watching a chick flick?
Brad?
Chick flick, bazooka. Chick flick, bazooka.
Let me in, Brad!
Who's that?
Brad!
I don't know.
Brad?
PlayStation.
Structurally, the game is divided into several vast levels, each with big open arenas interconnected by tunnels and smaller sections. The arenas are populated by dozens of enemies and are the places where the big action segments take place, while the tunnels that connect them are lighter in action and are used cleverly to allow the bigger sections of the level to be loaded without the need for constant loading screens, while helping at the same time with the game's pacing and the player's immersion throughout the whole level. Every zone starts with the freefall section and ends with the boss room, where you will face the commander of each mining city. The boss fights usually revolve around finding their weak spot, making you think tactically instead of mindlessly fighting them head-on. Once the area boss is dealt with, Kurt gets literally sucked back to the spaceship by a vacuum pipe of sorts, and during this section you can control him and have the chance of getting an extra life pickup to help with the next level. Each zone was designed by a different level designer, which explains why they are so drastically different from one another. Although MDK is at its core a third-person shooter, its gameplay is twisted around regularly with puzzles and minigames that break the monotony and keep the experience fresh, from the start to the very end of the zone.
Playing as Kurt, you have the ability to deploy a reusable parachute that is part of the battlesuit. This essentially lets you glide and slow down your fall, and it will be an integral tool when traversing the levels. Kurt's main weapon during the game is, as described in the manual, a multi-use, single-purpose chain gun that can either be used as an handheld weapon or attached to Kurt's head to be used as a long-range sniper rifle. From a visual standpoint, both the battlesuit and weapon ingenious designs remain some of the most memorable and iconic features from the game, along with Kurt's menacing silhouette. From a gameplay standpoint, having this weapon setup allows you to switch from fast-paced third-person shooting to precise first-person sniping action. While sniping, you are able to zoom in and out, and you will have several types of ammunition to choose from. Since the gun covers Kurt's face while sniping, you get to listen to his filtered breathing as you snipe away. This little detail makes the sniping sections much more tense as you methodically shoot the targets, performing headshots while enjoying the impressive animations. It never gets old obliterating an enemy's leg, just watch it beg for mercy as it crawls on the ground hopelessly. The combination of the gun's design and the feel from the sniping gameplay provides a satisfying sense of power and catharsis that remains still effective to this day.
A deliberate effort was put into creating conceptually over-the-top, almost borderline ridiculous gadgets and items to help Kurt accomplish his mission. Among them, you will find oddities such as the world's smallest nuclear explosion, literally a miniaturized nuclear explosion, the world's most interesting bomb, which opens up as a Pandora's box to lure every enemy surrounding it, just before exploding on their clueless faces, or an earthworm gym head that makes a cow fall from the sky on top of your enemies. Because, of course. When playing MDK again for this review, there was a feeling that resonated during the playthrough, a feeling that can be summed up in a word: uniqueness. Due to its stylistic approach, world building and its unexpected cohesion among the chaos that permeates it, MDK has aged surprisingly well. Yes, there are sometimes vestiges of old game design, with some areas that don't necessarily telegraph or guide the player very well. But they are few and far between, and largely eclipsed by zones that, while defying all logic, provide a remarkable breath of fresh air when compared to the games of nowadays.
You can easily get the digital releases on GOG or Steam, and both run on current operative systems without the need of much tweaking. For an optimal experience, make sure to use the fan patch by Alex. The PlayStation physical version is also an option, but it will always be harder to find it in good condition as the years go on. As for the soundtrack, it was released separately on CD, and is also available on digital streaming services such as Spotify. Considering how well it stands up on its own, it is without a doubt a worthy addition to your music library. So, is MDK still worth playing nowadays? The answer is a resounding yes. We absolutely encourage you to play this game if you get a chance.